From KPFK in Los Angeles, California, Valley Free Radio in Florence, Massachusetts, WNUC in Detroit, and biketalk.org worldwide, this is Bike Talk.
Bike Talk.
Welcome to Bike Talk. I'm Taylor Nichols.
And I'm Nick Richard.
Hey, Nick.
Hey.
We want to start the show this week with a remembrance. Someone that, we all know as Chickenleather. His name was Paul Baca. But, Nick, you've told me a lot about him, how important he was to you and to starting Bike Talk. And he died this week.
Chickenleather was the spirit of the Los Angeles bike community. He was at all the rides, the parties,
right,
all the races, all the events, everything. And he always had a camera and he was recording it, but we never really saw much of what he recorded. But he also helped start Kill Radio, which is where Bike Talk started. And so he was the original co-host of Bike Talk. And I don't always have the street cred as a bike rider, like I had Jim C. because he was a mechanic. I had Don Ward because he's a ride organizer.
Midnight Riders, right, yeah.
You're on the bike advisory committee for Los Angeles. It's always somebody who's more like legit than me in that sense. And Chickenleather was the most legit spirit of the LA bike community.
Of the movement, yeah, he was omnipresent. How did he die, Nick?
We don't know yet.
I didn't know that. Okay, wow. It wasn't through traffic violence.
No.
Oh, okay,
no,
good. Well, that's yeah.
But he was also somebody who kept the bike oven going by himself for a long time, the collective, and he was always, his life's mission was about helping people fix their bikes.
Right.
And it wasn't about money. And we have some audio to that effect from a 2010 episode of Bike Talk where he talks about the economy and then he talks about the economy of bike collectives.
Great. Let's hear that.
Hey, Chickenleather here. I've been MIA for a little bit. That's only because I've had to deal with the reality of cars. I saw Obama the last couple of weeks get pummeled by the Republican Party because he's still comparing our economy to a car, I think. Our economy is not to blame. We had 8 years of war. Basically, we had 8 years of a federal government that was basically calling it in and taking the money and putting it towards more war and stuff. Anyway, let's get to bicycles. What is instead of a stalled car, our economy, he explained it to a bicycle. Mm-hmm. It's greener. They're leaving less of a carbon footprint. But I think also if you're saying, hey, the tires are flat, dude, that's something we can do. We can fill up those tires. I think we should not abandon our green issues here, wean ourselves off oil, and that's what I was trying to pose as a question last night on Midnight Riders. Of course, this was sort of obliterated by the fact that there was a film crew there 2/3 of the night. A lot of people showed up just to get photographs and then left. I think it's great that we get people interested in the community, but I come out to the bike governor or one of the bike collectives. It doesn't have to be ours on whatever side of town. They're spreading all over from the bikery in the valley to Long Beach Hub, where there's all sorts of people building bikes, and of course you can talk about the bikeway and the bike oven. But I said, come on out and we'll put you on a bike. I think that's the only way you really can experience the scene instead of just filming a lot of guys on their fixies doing tricks, which is part of the scene, but I don't think it's the whole scene. I think we can look beyond this, and perhaps this is a way to do it. Perhaps that might be media's mission to engage the youth, but to also show that when you engage them, you can have other effects on a local stage here. Maybe that's my rant for the morning. As Josep used to say, it's the journey that makes the hero. So maybe riding on the street does season you and does get you involved on a human scale, on a one-to-one scale. You get to see things that you never would see or experience on a bicycle because you're open, you're free, there's that freedom, and you're also engaging in your community and perhaps pacing yourself with a group and traveling a little more safe in numbers and sort of sparking the idea that your bike can be transportation, more than transportation. Bike collectives are really trying to do things simple like pay rent and stuff. So when people haggle over the $5 we might get, I sometimes have to remind them, it's like we're even trying to raise our money to be a nonprofit. Sometimes it's not so much that economy is ruling us as much as like like we're willing to take that next step. I mean, I don't know how many bike shops really do work on kids' bikes and kind of let them go out the door without, paying, and they're thinking they're sneaking away, but we're saying, they'll be back when they need tires, and I always love how they come in just for air, and then the next thing you know, you're working on their brakes, and by the end of the day, you're fixing the whole wheel and the bottom bracket and everything, and it's like, what am I going to do? Skin some kid for an extra $5 or $6? I don't know if that's really the way to entice the next generation into cycling. Getting normal people to cycle as opposed to cyclists to cycle. Anyway, that's where that's going. So, Nick, I think I've sort of gone and touched every base I could right now. I have been very lax on the fact that we tend to depend on our bikes for more than we really believe, so maybe they will save us, but I think it's more or less how much you give in to. I got to go. So,
thanks for calling, man.
See you on the ride.
See you later. Bye.
So that was Paul Baca, otherwise known as Chickenleather. And, I don't even know how he got that name. Do you?
No, I don't. I imagine he thought of it himself.
Well, great. Are you still on vacation? Are you riding your bike? What's going on with you?
Well, Friday was the last day of vacation, unless you count the weekend. And Saturday, I took a big bike ride from where I usually work, which is a 40-minute drive from where I live, back to where I live. So now I know I can do it by bike.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, you got street cred, Nick. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, not compared to the people I talk to on the show.
Well, that's one thing good about the show is we really do get to talk to a lot of great people, politicians, advocates, leaders, authors, journalists, all different kinds of people. So it's not just you and me, which is one of the great things. I'm still in Spain, and I had a ride today. And usually I'm passing people on the road going the other way. But today I ran into a guy who was going my way, and I got a little conversation with Josep in Cataluña. So here's Josep.
Blanche Dubois in Streetcar Named Desire says, I have always relied on the kindness of strangers. And once again, I have relied on the kindness of strangers. I'm in Spain, in just north of Barcelona, riding up a pretty steep hill, and Josep passed me by and allowed me to get on his wheel, and he dragged me to the top of the climb. Josep, muchas gracias. Bienvenida a Bike Talk. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the kind of riding that you do in this fabulous area to ride your bike.
Okay. Thanks to you. As I told you before, I'm from Barcelona. I come from time to time during the weekends here to Montseny. That is a wonderful place to ride, really, and then to enjoy these hills.
Yes.
And it's a fantastic with roads without traffic, with a good temperature, because the medium high is around 700, 1,000 meter.
Right.
And it's fabulous. Compared with from where I come, that it's Barcelona,
right.
Plenty of
coaches,
traffic, coaches. That's a complete pleasure.
Yeah. I think more bicycles passed us than cars. I think only one car passed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's also because it's weekend during Labor Days. There are from time to time a few more cars, but you see them scarcely. It's very few of them. Yeah.
And the roads are in great shape. The roads we rode on, no potholes, no cracks, just really beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. There are some of them that, due to the glass in winter, that are
the ice
a bit more broken.
Yeah.
But normally it's a pleasure. It's completed. And the asfalto, I don't know in English the name of it, asfalto, it's great. It's great.
Well, I think your English is a lot better than you put on when we were riding, because your English is good. Tell me a little bit about the kind of riding you do. You ride 3-4 times a week, you said.
Yeah, 3-4 times. Yeah. I try to bike as much as possible, because it's for me it's a kind of, instead of going to the gym,
right.
I prefer going to the nature and enjoy the nature in bike. And I try to normally around Barcelona I try to go out for 3 times, 2-3 times at least, and then during weekends here to Montseny. My goal is make 200 kilometers per year, and then per week. Sorry,
yeah, I was going to say.
And then once a year to make an extra excursion, let's say, to the French Pyrenees or the Alps. This year has been the Alps, and it's been totally. It's been fantastic.
Yes. Well, the Vuelta a España just started, and I think a lot of the riders live near here, and you said
in Girona.
In Girona, and you said that when the Tour de France started in Barcelona, a lot of them stayed near you when they were in their hotels.
Yeah, because they stayed in a village where I live that it's 20 kilometers away from Barcelona. It's called Castelldefels, and all the main, I would say most of the teams were staying there in Castelldefels, and I had the pleasure to ride with Pogacar, Benepool, El Torito, del Toro. Well, I saw them 5 seconds. 5 seconds, just 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But it was a pleasure, of course, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, Josep, thank you very much for riding with me and for talking on Bike Talk. I got to tell you, we have to do a tour here because it is just so beautiful. Montseny is a natural park, and it's a pretty high. I'm not sure what the pass is, how high the pass is, but I'm guessing it's 2,000 or 3,000 meters.
No, the maximum is 1,700.
Oh, it just feels like 2,000 or 3,000 meters.
Turó de Loma and Las Agudas.
Vale.
That are the 2 peaks.
Well, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti, un placer.
We're going to have to do a Bike Talk bike ride in this area, Nick, because this area of Cataluña, of Spain, is just phenomenal. And I'm really enjoying riding and enjoying meeting the people. And on that note, I want to bring in a listener of the show, a guy that we've had on the show. We've read his letters before, and he is planning a tour of his own. Tim Dyet, welcome to Bike Talk, man.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm quite excited to be here.
Absolutely.
Great to have you. Yeah. So you were inspired by, you said you were inspired to do your ride by Taylor.
Absolutely. So Taylor did his ride, and I've been listening to you guys for a couple of years. And he went on this ride that I was like, oh my goodness, that sounds like a lot of fun to do something. And I'm a working musician. I don't get a lot of time off. So when I realized there was a hole in my schedule that would fill in, it was about 2 weeks block. I'm like, I bet I can do the Erie Canal Trail from Buffalo to New York City within that time frame. And so that's why I decided upon a nice end of summer adventure.
That just sounds great. And that's a bike path, a bike trail, right? So you're not going to be on roads too much, right?
It is a bike trail. There's like a small percentage that does intersect on roads, but the original Erie Canal Trail, built in the 1800s, had these donkey tow paths that were along the canal the whole way. And over time, those have evolved to become bike trails and pedestrian trails that different towns have taken care of to either pave, or they change the gravel, or all these other places. And it's quite exciting to go along it, because all along it they have about roughly 17 free campsites that cyclists are allowed to use up to 48 hours for their trip along this canal. So it's quite exciting.
I had a lot of those also on my trip. And one thing nice about the hiker-biker spots is you don't have to make a reservation. You can just pull in and they'll find space for you. When I did it, there was plenty of space. Are you going to be camping then the whole time, or what?
I plan on it for the most part. Like I'll duck into a hotel if I really have to, but I do have some nice camping equipment that I'm looking forward to. But as I get closer to New York City, I'm going to have to time out some hotels or hostels, whatever I need to do. My plan is loosely, I'm going to stay at a friend's place once I reach Albany. And then by then I'll figure out how many miles am I making a day, and how long will that be from Albany to New York, so then I can book the proper places that I need once I get closer to the city.
How many miles is the whole trip?
It's like 533, but I'm going to add about 30 miles to that. So I'm going to say about 560 miles, I'd imagine. So nothing that I don't think I can't handle within 2 weeks.
No, I think you can make that easily. Yeah, that just sounds great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Taylor, your trip is having an impact.
I love that. And, you said last week or a couple of weeks ago, Nick, if you got 2 mice, in your house, you probably have 100 mice in your house. So I hope that there are more people out there getting out on a bike and doing it. We're going to talk in a second with a couple of guys who are doing a ride across America, and a very different kind of ride from what you were planning. How many days are you going to be on the road, Tim?
I'm estimating roughly 10. My commute for work takes me at the very start of this trail, so I always run into bike packers on the trail. And a few I befriend and follow them on social media, so I kind of see how long does it take them to roughly get from the start of the Erie Canal to New York City, and it's an average about 8 to 10 days, what I find. So it's different between each person, but I'm assuming 10 days, hoping that the weather is good.
You said that you were going to leave today, but there's a storm holding you back. So
I was going to leave today.
Days. Yeah.
Yeah, the lightning and everything going on. I'm like, you know what? My first day I only planned to do about 37 miles. I think I'll just tack that on to Monday morning and just, get a earlier start and just kind of make that up.
Oh, that sounds great. And when you're in New York, do you plan to do any biking in the city?
Yeah, a bit, hopefully. I want to at least get a good day in just to kind of see the sights and all that stuff and see what's there. I haven't been there in about 7 years. I know quite a bit has changed. I'm looking forward to seeing all of it.
Maybe we'll hook you up with our friend Mayor Mamdani.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
I feel like he's our friend.
Totally.
Yeah. I'll visit him at Gracie Mansion or wherever it's called.
You might see him around.
Absolutely.
On a bike with a helmet.
With a helmet now. He's started wearing helmets due to popular demand.
Yeah, I did see that news story pop up relatively recently, which is great because then I believe he started an initiative to get kids in helmets and all that stuff. So
cool.
I'm really excited for you. I think the night before you take off and leave on a trip is always a little bit anxious. But once you get on the bike and start pedaling, you're going to just love it, I think.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be journaling it through Strava, and I'll keep you guys updated the best I can. It's just Tim Dyet on Strava, just TIM space DYET.
Tim Dyet, thanks, man. Have a great trip.
Thank you guys very much.
Tim is planning a certain kind of trip, and one of the things that I realized when I was on my trip, Nick, is a lot of people are riding on these long journeys, long tours for a cause. Mine was to connect my daughters to my dad. Kay was to raise money for kids' food, K Bikes for Kids. Well, I just talked with a couple of guys, Tom Schwein and David McKean, who are getting ready to ride across America on a very different kind of trip for a cause of raising money and awareness for homelessness. People know that I just finished my ride across the country, and I rode across the country to connect my daughters to my father, my 101-year-old dad. But one of the great things about doing the ride was I met so many other people who were riding for a cause. And today we have 2 people from Denver, Colorado, from the Catholic Charities, Tom Schwein and David McKean, and they are getting ready to do a ride across the country, ride across America, starting in October. Tom, you're going to lead the ride, and David, you are the chief fundraiser for the ride, as far as I understand. Both you guys, thanks so much for coming on to Bike Talk. Tell me a little bit about what Ride Across America is and what you're raising money for. Tom, why don't you jump in there and start for us?
Thanks, Taylor. The Ride Across America came about as a result of the fact that we started years ago by doing a bunch of rides in Colorado, like the Ride the Rockies and the Elephant Rock 100. And those were things we did in order to raise money for the crisis of homelessness in Colorado. And as recent as a little over a year ago, Dave and I were both hired by Catholic Charities. And I was hired literally to run a cycling team and a running team. And so I took that to the next level, went to ChatGPT, put together a marketing plan, took it to Darren Walsh, the CEO, and said, Darren, let's take this to the next level. And he said, go. And so here we are now with 12 cyclists, 1 woman, the rest men, riding across America to raise national awareness for the crisis of homelessness. And I guess one of our goals isn't to raise money just for Colorado. It's to raise money for any homeless shelter, any parish, anywhere on the route that wants to raise money for themselves to support the national crisis, the global crisis of homelessness.
I'm so glad you said that, because I live in Los Angeles and we deal with unhoused neighbors all the time. But I do think you're right that it is a national and a world crisis. David, how much money are you guys planning on raising?
Well, I told Tom, he came in and we were first kicking around the idea of this goal and that goal. And I said, and this is not my line, this is Tom's line, go big or go home. So I said, all right, we're raising $2 million, Tom. That's what we got to get to. So it's a lofty goal, and I hope we can achieve it. As you pointed out, this is all across, and this is not, we're Catholic Charities at Denver, but the riders are not all Catholic. The team is not Catholic. The mission is not, we are working with Catholic Charities in a lot of the route, but we're also working with other Christian churches, shelters along the way. This is, we need everybody involved.
Right. It's an open door policy on Samaritan cycling. Right. Well, that's great. Tell me a little bit about the ride. When are you going to do it? Where are you going to start? Where are you going to finish? Are you going to have support vehicles? I'm really curious in, what the process is going to be, because it is such an experience to do a ride like that.
Well, first of all, I had 7 different companies that I talked to support us along the ride. And these are companies that literally, this is their life. They put you on a bike in San Diego and they take you all the way to St. Augustine, Florida, and they charge X dollars. And you get a hotel, you get a breakfast, you get snacks along the way, and we refill your water bottle and you get a dinner. We chose Cycle of Life Adventures, COLA, as they're called. We get a hotel and a warm bed and a shower every night and a place to do my laundry, because after 3 days, your jersey stands up on its own.
Sure.
And we're going from San Diego, California on Sunday, the 4th of October. We arrive 45 days later in St. Augustine, Florida, 2,941 miles.
Wow.
And we had a meeting last night as the team, and I told all the people at this meeting, I said, guys, here's the deal. You're going to suffer. This is not a walk in the park. Right. This is Ride the Rockies that was 5 or 6 or 7 days, 30,000 vertical feet and 500 miles. This is Ride the Rockies times 6.
Right.
This is not a walk in the park.
Right.
Be prepared for that. And I know, talking to you, Taylor, you've experienced that in your life probably many, many times.
Yeah. When I was getting ready for this interview, I think I divided 45 into 2,900, and I came up with like 65 miles a day or something like that. That's a pretty good stretch every day. Are you taking days off?
Actually, we're only running 40 days. So when you run the math, it's 71 miles.
Ooh,
we have 5 rest days, which we're all going to need.
Yeah. So 70 miles a day is a good ride. Or is anybody on an e-bike, or is everybody on an acoustic bike, or what?
We're all on regular bikes. Just
right.
No. They do allow e-bikes, but none of us are riding e-bikes.
Right. Great. And how many feet of climbing are you going to do in those 40 days?
79,000 vertical feet.
Wow. That's pretty good. That's a good ride.
Yeah.
When I talked to Cola last fall, and they had me on the phone, and Ellie and Dennis, the owners, Ellie says to me, she says, Tom, I just want you to know that the first couple of days out of San Diego is like 4,000 or 5,000 vertical feet. And I said, Ellie, we've done Ride the Rockies for years, and that's 30,000 in 6 days. We're okay with a couple of 1,000 feet of vertical.
Well, I do think coming from Denver, Colorado gives you a leg up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Called oxygen.
Yeah. You'll be at sea level in San Diego. And how did you pick the 12 riders? Did they sign up for it, and are they raising money for it, or how does all that work? Because that sounds like a great ride. I'd love to be involved in something like that where, I have a hotel every night and, dinner and all that.
Well, Taylor, we have openings for the 2027 Ride Across America in the fall. I, in the last year, cycling, doing training rides for all the sanctioned cycling events here in Colorado, I'd be riding next to somebody on the team, and I'd say, we're going to do a Ride Across America. And 5 of them said, I'm in. Yeah. I mean, they didn't hesitate. So when I went to Darren Walsh, the CEO, he funded some of that. And then we went to Catholic Charities USA and said, help us find 7 more people. Great. Well, we waited a month, never heard back from anybody in the United States. Wow. So I went back to the team, and in about 10 seconds, I'm in. And so it was like, it was so fast, it was unbelievable. But we now have this great team of people that have been riding together, some since 2011, some since 2015, 2016, but they all understand the ministry, number one, because we take all the new people when they join. We take them to the Samaritan house so they know why we ride. They know we're raising money for a crisis, something that we can't cure, but we sure can make a big dent by raising the money to serve the homeless.
And I think the awareness of it is also a main thing. David, how do you plan on raising the money? I mean, can you give our listeners a website to go to? But how else are you planning on raising $2 million? That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And we've got a bunch of different plans. We're going to be raising this through the marketing efforts. We've had a news story that the Channel 9 here in Denver, they've got a correspondent. He's known as their man in the mountains, and he's kind of a one-man show up in Summit County, which is Breckenridge, Keystone, Idaho, all that area up there. And Tom and the guys are going to go up on Tuesday and do basically a shoot with him because he's going to do a big news story about it. And so we'll have a lot more exposure with that. The other thing is that we're going through the churches, through the Catholic parishes, but also, again, it's non-denominational. So we have guys on the team who are going to their churches and they're giving talks to raise money. And, if you just throw it out there and say, look, it's a penny a mile, that's $30. You know, you can get $30 out of 100 people there, and that'd be a good day. If you say, hey, I need 10 cents a mile, right? Again, that's $300 rounded up, right? And so also there's going to be media along the way, especially when we're, San Diego has a big plan, a big media plan. We've got a huge plan in Fredericksburg, Texas. We actually end up riding through there, and we have a rest day there. And it turns out that that's their big wine and food festival.
Oh, so even better. Yeah. 30,000
people are going to be there. And they've said that we can have some time on their stage, their concert stage. And so we'll be talking about there. And we're supporting they're not a Catholic shelter there, but we've been connected with them, and we're going to be working to support them directly to help their population in Fredericksburg, Texas. And going along the route, that's the way we're raising money. Friends and family, LinkedIn. You'll be getting a message from me shortly, Taylor. We're going to need your your penny, 2 cents a mile, whatever you got.
Yeah, great. So you will be doing events along the route, it sounds like. I think that's a great idea on your rest day, being able to kind of connect with the local community.
Everybody's totally gung-ho, and I know Tom is going to lead the charge and keep everybody on track. But, there are going to be days when it's going to be a long day, some days of 90 plus miles, and the guys are going to roll into a stop and they're expected to, get off their bikes and serve dinner to homeless people. And
put on a smile, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that will end up, I'm sure, being tough. But the thing about most of the guys on the team is they go to the shelter and they serve meals in the shelters. So they know firsthand what they are riding for. And they're all amazing guys and just hearts of gold, and they're just filled with enthusiasm for it. So I'm sure it will be, and least amongst them is Tom, he's like, 102 miles, no problem. I'll be there at 4:00. I'm like,
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think the idea of riding it, Tom, with a group, it will be really interesting and really fun. And how did you pick your route? What kind of roads will you be on?
Cycle Life Adventures has the route for us, starting in San Diego, and it's a southern route, goes through Tucson, El Paso, Fredericksburg, Deer Ritter, Alabama, Gulf Shores, and finally St. Augustine, and all the little towns in between. So they've been doing this for, I think, 19 years. So they've got it down. Right. I know we're not major highways, but we're on major roads and or back roads along the route. And so they've got it organized for us. We also have been practicing. And unfortunately, I didn't have my new glasses, little record stuff on, but we just did a pace line on a ride we did actually yesterday. And we practiced with, 90 seconds drop, 90 seconds drop, 90 seconds drop. And we had a couple issues because some of these people, it's been a while since they did one, but we're probably going to break into two pace lines because we've got, I don't want to say a fast group and a slow group, but we've got an A group and a B group.
Sure.
And so we know that some of the people on the routes and the rides every day are going to be a little bit later. Yeah. But we're going to use Ride with Chat or GPT or something.
Ride with GPS, probably.
There you go. So we all have the route. We all know where we're going. Nobody's going to get lost. Yeah. But we like pace lines. We've done pace lines during Ride the Rockies and the Elephant Rock Century and all the other rides since 2011. And a lot of these guys are really good at it. Some of them, you got to pull them over and say, don't ever do that again, or somebody's going to.
Well, it's a learning process. Sure.
It's a learning process. Yeah.
Well, riding in a pace line is a blast, and it certainly makes the miles go by a lot faster. But also, I might add, on my ride, I rode solo, and it was also really a spiritual experience riding solo. And so I hope that everyone to sort of be on their own on the road and think about what they're doing, think about why they're doing it. And one of the great things about the bike is the metronome of pedaling. And that is almost a meditation for me. And I'm sure you guys will find that along the route also. Again, the organization is Samaritan Cycling, and it's through Catholic Charities. David, what's the website so people can learn more about it? And how would people give if they wanted to give if they're listening?
Google it. They can do Samaritan Cycling, Ride Across America, and that'll take you right to the webpage, and you'll see the team there. Tom and the guys have come up with a scheme to help motivate their donors. Whoever is the leader in donations is going to be wearing the yellow jersey.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And if they continue to lead in donations between the whole team, all the team members, they get to wear the yellow jersey. But the guys are, needless to say, they're a little competitive, right?
Sure.
And,
a little bit.
Not the least of which is the guy you're talking to over here, Tom.
Right.
And so I can see Tom getting into the hotel at night and getting on the phone or getting on the internet and saying, hey, guys, I just lost the yellow jersey to Tommy Day.
Yeah.
I need some money.
Yeah, give. Well, as I said at the beginning, people ride across the country for all kinds of reasons. And I think this is a great reason. And I'm so glad to meet you guys. Again, the ride starts October 4th in San Diego, California. 40 days of riding, 45-day trip to St. Augustine, Florida. Samaritan Cycling, Ride Across America is the website.
Penny a mile. That's all we need.
David McKean, Tom Schwein, thank you so much for doing this ride and bringing awareness to the crisis of homelessness, and have a blast on the ride.
Thank you,
Taylor.
It sounds like a great trip. I hope they raise their $2 million and have stories to tell.
Yeah, it's a great way of doing philanthropy.
Connecting two things you love, raising money for a great cause and riding your bike.
Yeah, they do it with tacos and donuts and beer and weed. Why not charity?
Absolutely.
Now, in Boston, there is, a lot of energy right now after the activist Louisa Gagg's death. I mean, she was a streets activist. She worked for the mayor's office. She was killed by a truck driver. The mayor said it was time for a change. But there's a bikeway that was cut because of what our guest coming up describes as the old guards. It was still in the mayor's office.
Right.
So I talked to Christian MilNeil, editor of Streetsblog, Massachusetts, about this.
This is Christian MilNeil, who is the editor of Streetsblog, Massachusetts. You do a lot of good work, as do all Streetsblog editors.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This latest article I saw last week is about a bikeway in Boston that's going to be discontinued, and it's at a really interesting time for Boston.
This was a bike lane, like it was going to be a very nice curb-protected bike lane that was going to be built along a long city block in East Boston. And a lot of the streets in East Boston are pretty wide and dangerous, including the street where this new development is being built right now. So there's a big 170 apartment building being built on a street called Bennington Street in a place called Day Square. And Bennington Street is one of the neighborhood's most dangerous streets. It's had several fatalities. It's a wide 4-lane street. And a few years ago, the city planning office did a big plan for East Boston called Plan East Boston. And one of the recommendations in it was to build protected bike lanes along Bennington Street from Day Square all the way to the city line, and also do a lot of traffic calming in this neighborhood. And this was going to be sort of like the first segment of the city's plans for a new protected bike lane along the entire length of Bennington Street. And it also connects to the East Boston Greenway, which is an off-street path that runs through the neighborhood. So that plan was approved maybe 5 years ago under the previous mayor. And it's literally under construction right now. It's actually almost complete. It's going to wrap up construction in the next few months. And earlier in August, the developers came to this Streets Commission, this Boston Public Improvements Commission, with a plan to replace the bike lane with on-street parking instead. And this commission, the Public Improvements Commission, usually doesn't get a lot of attention. Even I don't really watch their meetings unless, something fishy is going on. Luckily, one of our readers flagged the fact that these developers were up to this. And at the first week of August, I did a story for Streetsblog about it. A lot of people found out. It turned out to be like one of our most read stories of the month. And this Public Improvements Commission meeting had more public comment than they've ever seen before. Not a single member of the public who actually lived in East Boston was in favor of this change. The only people who spoke in favor of this change were City Hall employees, people who worked for the mayor's office, and the district city councilor's office were the only two people who spoke in favor of this change. And the commissioners voted unanimously to make it happen. And so this bike lane project is going to be canceled.
I'd say it comes at an interesting time because your mayor started out as pro walking, biking, alternative transportation, transit.
Yes.
And then totally reversed on that.
Yeah.
And then Louisa Gagg was killed by a truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like the street was ready for some change.
Yes. Louisa Gagg was a Boston City Hall employee, very beloved by her colleagues, and she was killed by a truck driver while she was riding her bike to work earlier this summer. And there was just a tremendous amount of outrage and anger and sadness associated with that homicide. And at a vigil held at City Hall the week after she was killed, Mayor Wu came out and seemed very contrite and tearfully promised that the city, quote, had to do better. Mayor Wu went through her first reelection campaign last year in 2025. And that was when we saw her administration canceling a lot of safety projects, not just safety projects, like, basic infrastructure projects were getting held up and delayed. The city lost a lot of federal funding because it couldn't get its act together. It wasn't making decisions. Yeah, you're right. During Mayor Wu's first term, she had a chief of streets named Yasha Franklin Hodge, who was very effective and getting a lot of things done, getting a lot of street projects built. That made a few powerful people pretty upset. One billionaire tried to start this AstroTurf campaign about, why bike lanes were bad. Didn't really get a whole lot of traction because that's actually not an issue most ordinary people care a lot about. The candidate who was running against Mayor Wu last year was the nepotist son of a billionaire and tried to make bike lanes an issue. Didn't really work. He lost in a landslide. But in spite of that, Mayor Wu kept this administration, and this new administration that she's brought on board has sort of delayed or canceled a lot of those projects. So that's been going on for the past year. And then last month, when a driver killed Louisa Gagg, there was a lot of anger, but there was also a lot of hope that maybe now Mayor Wu gets it, why this stuff is important. This is actually not just an aesthetic issue that makes some billionaires angry. This is actually a life and death issue that the city needs to take more seriously. Mayor Wu has made speeches to that effect that things need to change. But then things like the cancellation of a bike lane by a panel of streets commissioners that are under her direct control with no public input and with no apparent support from the public and the neighborhood makes folks wonder what is really going on.
You don't have to be a detective to come to the conclusion that the developers of this 170 apartment development influenced the mayor's office. Right?
Well, it's not clear that it's coming from the developers. I've spoken with about half a dozen folks in the neighborhood, including people who were on the impact advisory committee. Nobody was informed of this ahead of time. So allegedly, it's coming from a request from neighborhood business owners, folks in Day Square. And the developers actually in this commission were very adamant, saying, this was not our idea. The city asked us to do this.
It probably wouldn't have cost them all that much more to do the project, right?
No, and in fact, if you're developing in an apartment building and you want to rent out a fancy apartment you probably don't want to have a big 4-lane street in front of your building, right? Like you actually would like to have a street that's safer and greener. I actually take the developers' arguments at face value. I think they're telling the truth personally when they say they weren't asking for this. It's putting them in a pretty awkward position because now the neighborhood is actually pretty upset with them. I take it at face value that both the developer and the city hall staff are saying this is coming from a request initiated by city hall staff. And we don't know which city hall staff are asking for this, but that is on the record in this Public Improvements Commission meeting.
Okay, so my first theory has hit a dead end, and now it's just is someone at City Hall?
Yes.
Isn't it just City Hall?
We don't know, but something that I am confident in saying is that there is a culture clash inside City Hall where you have older sort of 20th century traffic engineering types, public works types. And this includes the chief of streets that Mayor Wu installed last year, this guy named Nick Gove, who was installed as the new chief of streets. He's the one who sort of paused a lot of projects and canceled a lot of projects from moving forward. He does not like the limelight. I'm told that he rarely talks to his staff. Not a good manager, but he's the one who's been in charge for the past year. He was demoted after Louisa Gag was killed. And so he's no longer the chief of streets, but he is still retaining the title of commissioner of the Public Works Department. As the commissioner of the Public Works Department, he is still the chair of this Public Improvements Commission, which is the commission that ultimately has to sign off anytime there's a change to the public right-of-way. So anytime there's a streets project, but also anytime somebody wants to put up a sidewalk cafe or a utility pole, this commission has to sign off on it. So he's the one who chaired this meeting, and he's the one who controls the agenda of the Public Improvement Commission. So he is definitely part of this old school sort of like, it's the job of the Public Works Department to pave streets and move traffic, and that's it. And there's definitely a culture clash between him and some of the newer employees at the Boston Transportation Department and Public Works Department who are really focused on trying to build safer streets. And so there is a culture clash where a lot of folks who have been working for a very long time now on advancing projects like this one are now getting blocked by Nick Gove and some of his allies inside of City Hall. And for the time being, Nick Gove is still in charge in spite of the mayor's rhetoric that things have got to change.
Okay, so it's clear then.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's very convoluted, and Tiffany Kogel, the executive director of the Boston Cyclists Union, has pointed out that it is very unclear from anyone who's not like deeply involved in this sort of palace intrigue at City Hall. It's very unclear like who's actually in charge. Even for me, like as a reporter who follows this stuff very closely, it's like, who is in charge here? And this kind of uncertainty and ambiguity really benefits people like Nick Gove who don't want things to change. Because if nobody knows who's in charge, then it's very difficult to hold anybody accountable when stuff like this happens.
Aren't we holding Nick Gove accountable?
He is part of the problem, but he's not the only part of the problem. There are several folks inside City Hall who agree with his worldview and think that bike lanes are a problem, that we need more parking instead. And then there's this sort of like conventional wisdom, which I think came up in the election last year, that bike lanes are problems for local businesses, are like bad for traffic. All this stuff is like very easily debunked and not true. But if you're a Harvard educated politician who doesn't live in the real world, it's easy to believe that. And unfortunately, a lot of our politicians in Massachusetts are people who come from the ivory tower in Harvard and aren't really in touch with the real world.
There's a lot of people on the streets who believe that, like I had a friend tell me the other day that there's a bike lane in Boston, I don't know which one he was talking about, that increases traffic.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the thing that increases traffic is people in cars. Like, you know. So that has sort of become like a right-wing talking point, but most people in Boston aren't part of the right wing, right? If you who actually live here don't believe that stuff. We saw that very clearly in the election that happened last year, where we had a mayoral candidate who tried to peddle those kinds of talking points and failed utterly. It did not get any traction. It was also interesting, like at this Public Improvements Commission meeting that happened this week, we had about a dozen people who came out and spoke, asking the city, like, what is going on, including like several Spanish speakers saying, like, what are you doing? Like, we have a street safety problem. We don't have an issue with finding parking in Day Square. This is already a neighborhood with a lot of surface parking lots and a lot of parking lots on the streets. So if you actually listen to people instead of just like listening to pundits or politicians, people are asking for these safety improvements, and people are getting pretty frustrated with the mayor for not delivering them.
Christian, again, thank you for your article. The article is called Against Neighbors' Wishes, Boston Streets Commissioners Unanimously Vote to Eliminate Planned Bikeway Near Day Square, which feels like could be tighter.
There's a lot in there.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Thanks for chatting. Take care.
What's happening in Boston, Nick, sounds so much like what is happening in Los Angeles with Forest Lawn Drive. And we talked about that last week, about Mayor Bass at the last second pulling a project that was ready to go into the ground, that was funded and all set to go, with this kind of nebulous argument of, well, the community's against it. And we've been reaching out to the community for 3 years, and the community's not against it.
Yeah, we went through a process, and that happened. Some community matters more than others, I guess, in some cases.
Yeah.
All right, how about a little Stacy's News?
Sounds good.
I'm Stacy with this week's news. We begin in New York City, where a horrific week of traffic violence has left 3 cyclists dead in separate hit-and-run crashes. Mamadou Diallo, Paulina Tekchok, and Angelo Camara were all killed by hit-and-run drivers while commuting to or from work. The tragic spike brings the city's annual cyclist death toll to 17. In response, local advocates and Families for Safe Streets led a massive protest and die-in outside City Hall on Wednesday, demanding Mayor Zoran Mamdani follow through on protected bike lanes and street redesigns. Yet while New York advocates push for infrastructure, mayors elsewhere are actively gutting it. In Como, Italy, Mayor Alessandro Rapanese announced a complete ban on bicycles in the historic city center after he was personally bumped into by an e-bike rider. Despite widespread public backlash and upcoming protests, Rapanese insists riders must dismount and walk. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass is facing intense criticism from city council members and safety groups after stepping in to stall a long-planned safety project on Forest Lawn Drive. The high-speed corridor has seen 95 crashes over the last decade, but Mayor Bass caved to pressure from local business interests, blocking a project that would have reduced car lanes to install protected bike tracks. Just nearly 2 weeks ago, a speeding driver perished in a fiery crash on Forest Lawn Drive, directly across from the entrance to Mount Sinai Cemetery, a stark reminder of the exact lethal speeds redesign was meant to prevent. Finally, we head to Orange County, California, where local officials are taking an increasingly punitive approach to micromobility. Following a ban on all e-bikes for K-8 students in the Newport Mesa Unified School District, the district attorney's office announced a first-of-its-kind e-bike buyback event. Yes, similar to what they do for guns. Next month at Angels Stadium, officials will offer up to $1,000 in gift cards to residents who turn in their e-bikes or scooters, no questions asked. The DA framed the buyback as response to safety concerns, but critics point out a glaring double standard. While 4 deaths in Orange County over the past year can be attributed to e-bike or e-moto riders, drivers have killed over 130 people in that same time frame. Yet local leaders continue to target the smaller and lighter vehicles while ignoring the multi-ton SUVs and trucks, causing the vast majority of bloodshed on their roads.
We are going to the memorial for Chickenleather at Bike Oven. We have Reverend Joe Borfo, Don Ward,
David Summers.
David.
Hi.
Looks like you had a fall.
Yeah, what happened?
I fell off my bike on Thursday night. I was racing home because I work at LADOT. And I was late to my union meeting. We were meeting at 7 o'clock on Zoom, and I was the one supposed to start the Zoom meeting. And I just probably hit a little bump, and I just crashed. And chipped my tooth. I fractured my hand.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
And I only remember, like, somebody staring at me and being like, man, are you okay? What happened? And I just told them, like, I got to start a Zoom meeting. And I ran home. And, like, my wife opened the door, and I had blood streaming down my face. And I was like, how do I operate this and then she was like, we got to go to the ER,
Yeah.
People often don't realize that they need attention.
Yeah, they did the CT scan and all this stuff. No bleeding or anything like that. It was like minor bruising. But, I wanted to share a little bit about Chickenleather. When I first met Chickenleather, I had been working for the city planning department. I think we had just adopted the bicycle plan, and I got recruited to work on figuring out how to implement the plan. And then at the same time, we were working on the mobility plan, or we started working on the mobility plan. I was like running a couple meetings. Chickenleather was amongst the activists that would routinely show up. And I remember biking to a meeting somewhere with them. And, I was always a little bit like guarded just because bike activists with city bureaucrats can be a little bit confrontational or at least not very appreciative. For a lot of times it's for good reason. But Chickenleather said to me, no, man, you're our hero. And I was like, what? And I was like, it was like totally unnecessary and more generosity than I think I deserved at the time. But what I can tell you is that meant a lot to me to have somebody that was kind of in the trenches or wanting to make bicycling safer in LA say that to me. And it just told me everything I needed to know about Chickenleather was that he was a very generous person.
Yeah.
That gave me a big adrenaline boost of morale that I needed at the time. So yeah, I could credit Chickenleather for a very gracious onboarding that kind of set the tone for a very productive relationship for years to come. That ended up with the adoption of the mobility plan that led to Healthy Streets LA, that led to, I think, necessary institutional reforms. So just wanted to share that little vignette.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, thank you, David.
Yeah.
That was a good testimonial.
Yeah, you can take that to the bank. It's absolutely authentic.
Your face says authenticity.
Hey,
that's called street cred.
Thank you. That's what I said too. It's great talking to you guys. I'll pass it on. Orfo.
Hey, Joe.
We're all pretty sad. We lost somebody really important to the bike community. More than 20 years ago, I met him on the Midnight Riders Ride, and I used to come to the original bike oven in Josep Ali's garage, where we had alley cat races, and DJ Chickenleather had his camera in your face every second, asking you questions. Throughout the years, I've seen him be part of the bike scene with Kill Radio, and through Bike Oven as a volunteer and an activist. We got food donated from Olé Olé and Food Not Bombs. We've got people playing music in honor of Chicken. And we're playing a live stream of all of DJ Chickenleather's shows from 2005 to 2011 on killradio.org. It shows what an effect he had on the community. The only thing I want to say is that I'm really sad that he didn't see this in person. I feel like we should have honored him while he was alive.
Right.
That brings me a lot of sadness, but it also brings me joy that we're all here to think about him. And in a way, he is here with us, and he still will be here with us. And I want to thank Paul for everything he's done. He's been so generous. He would help anyone. We need to recognize each other in the community and be together. Unification is important in these times.
That's a great note, Joe. Is there any more information about how old Paul was or how he died?
I think he's around 70 years old. Mm-hmm. The nature of his death is still uncertain.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks for organizing the memorial. I think that's one of the great things that Bike Oven does, of bringing people together. And I think you're right about let's recognize everybody in the present time rather than waiting for something like this to happen.
Yeah, we all need to just get together more and celebrate what we've got.
It looks like it would be good to be there.
Well, there's going to be more events that Bike Oven's doing, and we're going to continually honor him. So please come when you can.
Great. Joe Borfo, the Bike Oven.
Thanks man.
Joe.
So Don
Ward.
Hi.
Original Midnight Rider, Wolfpack Hustle. What do you got to say about Chickenleather?
Chickenleather, dude. He was just ever positive. I've never heard Chickenleather say a mean thing about anybody. Him with his camera, it made the ride feel more newsworthy. You know what I mean? And I want to know what happened to his hundreds of tapes, because there's some incredible memories spanning 20 years that he documented. He documented all our fun. He was just involved in so many things, a bike oven, and just an all around good guy, looking out for the safety of the rides and just keeping things cool in my experience. We had a thing together where I'd be chilling. I hear a DJ Almond Joy. That was like my silly DJ name when I went on Kill Radio or something like that a long time ago. And he just always called me DJ Almond Joy, and I'd be like, Chickenleather. And then we just high fives and handshakes and, just talk about what's going on. It's going to be missed. I'm so sad because I saw him at Cyclists and I was riding by on my tandem and we were heading somewhere. I should have stopped to say hi. We waved at each other, but, you never know when people are going to exit the stage of life.
You echoed what Joe said about, don't pass up a moment to recognize someone and their achievements and their involvement in this movement. So that's right on.
Everybody at some point needs their flowers, including you guys. Bike Talk, man. How long has Bike Talk been going? Like Chickenleather was the original co-host, right?
Yes. I don't know.
Crazy.
You said since 2006 the other day. I don't know the exact time we started, but why not make it 2006? 20 years.
20 years,
baby.
Well, you guys are doing a great job.
On the shoulders of giants. Thank you, Chickenleather.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah, rest in peace, brother. Rest in peace.
Thanks, Don.
This episode of Bike Talk is sponsored by the law offices of Pocras and Taylor Reyes, with offices in Los Angeles and Bakersfield and serving all of Southern California.
Bike Talk is a project of CRSP and the Los Angeles Eco-Village Institute. And that was Bike Talk. If you have a story, a tip, or a topic, head over to biketalk.org and send us a message. Talk again next week.
Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get that car out of my way, I wanna ride my bike today. It keeps me fit, gets me there, I won't go stinking up the alley behind the daily grind. Let your mind unwind, if it's life, pretend to life, better get yourself a bike. Got yourself a bike. Oh, 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 got yourself a bike.